FM every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. Programs are also broadcast on WECS 90.1 FM at Eastern Connecticut State University and on our sister station WICH covering Norwich and New London. We're in the process of expanding our coverage to the Southeast region, and we're going to be having many special guests from the Norwich and the New London area to add to our mix of stories. I'm very happy to begin in August, especially looking at the arts with a lot of depth with Kia Baird. She's from the Cultural Coalition serving Southeastern and Northeastern Connecticut, and the coalition's agreed to have her here once a month to give you a full update on all the arts events, grant opportunities, and other opportunities for the arts. So we cover Southeast in the same way that we've been doing in the Northeast for a long time. So as we build out the show, we're going to get more stories to you to connect to our guests. We'll also be continuing our coverage of the growth of tenant unions across the state, and we'll also continue our coverage of the local impacts of the changes to health care access and delivery across our region. That's caused a lot of confusion and stress over the last couple of years. We'll continue to cover that from people who are affected. And we're also going to talk about some of the other shows here on WILI. The station has recently doubled its airtime in the afternoons, so it's 2 hours every weekday from 4 to 6 with locally based shows. And also we're connecting them to WICH, a sister station and Hall Broadcasting in Norwich, so people in our whole region know where to find local talk radio. It's really very special these days. You know, newspapers are struggling. A lot of news just doesn't get covered, and most of all, people don't get access to the airwaves to share their thoughts. So we're going to open up the phones later today and see what happens when we open up the phones here at WILI for you to give us feedback on our programming and these information shows, and especially the show that we're doing here on the Homefront on Wednesdays. So we've had a couple of weeks off for the Red Sox. I kind of grew up listening to baseball as a kid on my transistor radio with Yankees and Mets games. So if I have to be preempted, being preempted for baseball is okay for me. I wish them the best. And in the show today, we're going to hear about The Neighborhood, which is one of our programs, as well as Garden Talk, the program that precedes me here on Wednesdays. Also, during the show today, we're going to talk about some events coming up for the arts. And I think right now we're going to move into one of our first program previews. This is with the producers of The Neighborhood, which is Ernie and Anita Eldridge. They've had the show for a number of years here, and what we're doing with these features is giving you a chance to get behind the scenes, what the shows are about, how they're trying to reach you, and how you can reach them if you have information and news to share. All of our shows are open to have you as guests. So I'm going to let you hear that right now. We'll come back in a few minutes, and then I have a special today for you, a very special tribute about radio from George Carlin. So don't go away for that. Right now, this is all about The Neighborhood. Okay, we're back on the home front, and this week we're taking a look at some of the programs we have here at WILI AM 1400 and 95.3. Hall Communications has a number of radio stations in our region, and here at WILI they've doubled the primetime afternoon information programming. Now it's from 4 to 6 every day with different shows, all locally based, and all focusing on different aspects of life in our region. So I'm really happy to share these shows. They're on YouTube. They're also, of course, live on the radio station. They're also rebroadcast on WECS and Willimantic. Some of them are repeated there. And also public access, Spectrum Channel 192 airs many of the shows as well. So the whole idea is to get guests to connect to you to share information throughout the year. We have a lot of trouble today with local journalism struggling to stay alive. There's a lot of information. Life goes on. And when journalism is trouble, we're trying to have local radio to fill in some of the gap. So I'm really happy to have some time right now with Ernie Eldridge and Anita. They've been doing the show now for 10 years, The Neighborhood, each week. They're on the air on Tuesdays from 5:30 to 6. So thank you, first of all, for years of good radio service and for being here today.
Well, you know, I've listened to your show every week, and I remember you over at Eastern, and it's always a pleasure to be on the show with you. When I was the mayor of the town, we were up there a couple of times doing some music shows and stuff like that. So.
That's right. It was great to have you here in the house.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for asking us.
So, you know, the whole idea is we're trying to give you an idea behind the microphone what people are trying to do to reach out to you, what's their story, and how they're trying to reflect through their shows the people all around us. And we're trying to give airtime to guests sometimes who have things to say and they don't get a chance to get it out. So maybe you can go back 10 years. Let's start with your first early shows.
All right.
Because you've been a team from the beginning, right, Anita?
Correct.
So can you compare your early shows and the response to how things feel today, just in general?
Well, I know for myself, I was like totally nervous. I didn't know what to say. I was afraid I was going to say something wrong and Matt was going to have to hit the buzzer on me or something like that.
The Major Bowes hook.
That's right. So I didn't say an awful lot at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
She's changed that now, so, but she talks, we try to share the spot is what we try to do, John, it's, but myself personally, I'm born and raised here, so I'm a Wyndham boy, right across from Frog Pond, used to listen to all the croakers that they talk about on, the Battle of the Frogs, we heard the battle all the time during the summer months as such, so, but I know Anita will agree with me, our show airs at the right time that people are driving home, and we get so many compliments on people saying, you know what, it's just nice to be able to listen to somebody talk and enjoy it, let's put it that way, and informative too. So
yeah, and sometimes we're really lighthearted about it. I mean, it's not a real serious topic, but sometimes it kind of comes across that way a little bit, but it's not a real controversial thing. So people are not going to pick up any road rage or anything from what they're listening to.
We're both elected officials. Like I said, I've been in service for 35 years probably.
Oh yeah,
between Zone Board of Appeals, different hats, and Anita's the same way. She's been on Zone Board of she's been on Board of Finance for many years. So I was on Zoning Board I was on Zoning Board, and then I was on Appeals, and then of course I was the mayor, and then I was a council member. I'm still a council member, but we don't bring politics into our show at all. It doesn't even show up at all on our show.
Well, I have to take a little exception to that, dear.
Okay.
Because every once in a while, we do remind people that there's a meeting that is important that is at the town hall.
Or go vote or something.
Go vote. But
that's part of our show.
That's part of just informing
if we
our
had
neighbors.
More local news, they'd be talking about that.
Agreed.
Right?
True.
That's
Agreed.
part of the fabric that we're losing today. People have lost touch with basic, everyday stuff they used to take for granted.
We're both involved in local items. Anita's the president of Rotary Club. I'm a member also. She's the president of the Jilson House Historic Society. We're members. So we're involved in the community. We want people to come to our programs. We want people to come to the museums. We want them to come to different places. So that's what our show is about. And I know Anita said when she talks sometimes about the show, what do you say about the show?
Well, our show is kind of like I'm having a conversation with a best girlfriend over the backyard fence. Just kind of sharing information and just having a great chat. That's all.
And the thing I like about talk radio these days, at least good talk radio, is that they're not throwing red meat anymore. There's so much talk radio that can be polarizing, or they have a particular point of view and they have something to sell, and they're not selling products or goods or services.
I understand what you're saying.
Right? So where is there a safe space for these conversations that don't involve who to vote for or who to vote against, but like, this is life.
Right.
So how do you bring it up in a way that people won't bring that polarity into it as a safe conversation? Now, with all these years of experience, when it works well, what is it that makes dialogue less heated and more productive over the years when you've had different examples? What makes it work, and when do you think that does it not work?
Well, I think we haven't had one that has not worked, I don't believe. Do you, Anita? I think all of them...
I don't think so.
No, not at all.
Right.
But I think the key is to make the person who is here comfortable, make them feel as though they're talking to us over the back fence, not that they're on the radio and, oh my goodness gracious, what am I going to say?
And also that we're listening to what they have to say.
There you go. There's a big key. Absolutely, that we're listening to what they have to say. So, and we have lots of people come on the show, and when we don't have someone, we're not as lucky as you. You always seem to have lots of guests that are lining up.
I make lots of phone calls.
Is that what you do? Okay. And we're just busy enough sometimes that we don't always get to, make the phone calls, but sometimes it's at the last minute. And people say, "Oh, can I get on next week or something?"
Yeah.
We'll do something historical or something that happened that day or something like that, and people say, "Oh, that's kind of neat," you know. My mom likes that type of stuff. I'm fortunate to have a mother. She's 97. She's going to be 98 this year, and she lives by herself, and she is very active, and she tells us if we did good or not. So, believe me.
Right. I have to give her a big thumbs up. You're on camera this week.
Exactly right. There you
Say
go.
hi to Ma. Say hi to Ma. Be sure to say hi to Ma. Now, let's say the last few years. How do you think? Well, let me just share my optimism.
Sure,
because I
please.
came here from New York in late 70s to work at UConn. And I fell in love with the land. And if you stay in this community long enough, something happens to you. Mm-hmm. But so many people are transient today that they're moving around. And if you do that, there may be things, there's a reason for that. But when you don't stay, you don't get to hear things. Mm-hmm. And I wondered, having been here so long, what are the things that people fall in love with that keep them here when there's so much pressure to go somewhere for, quote, more money or whatever it is that people seek, right? But there's something about this community that kept me here, even though I have friends elsewhere. Something about it.
It's and it's probably a cliche now, but the festivals we have, the different things that go on in town, the boombox parade, that's one of the simple things. People even come back for that.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. But there's always, Third Thursday, the festivals. We have, all the museums. We have 3 museums, and actually now we've got like 4 museums or 5 museums. So it's a very historical area, and I think a lot of people enjoy the history of the town, and it's humorous. I mean, everything, that's part of it. I mean, that's part of the Battle of the Frogs. We were a laughing stock of the colonies, but we made we made well with it. Let's put it that way. And I think we still do the same thing. John, you had spoken before the show how you came in the 70s. I remember redevelopment. I remember the bad times. I remember, the heroin town, the whole thing, okay? I mean, and I was a politician I was part of politics at that time. It's a tough one to follow, okay?
Yeah,
but I think we've really made a rebound, and I think we're doing very well, honestly. I think we're doing very well. But we're getting older, so hopefully if we can keep the younger generation involved, and I think that's the hardest part is keeping them involved. But we try as a show to keep them involved, to be honest with you. So
it's nice to see a lot of the mom and pop shops and stores coming back to Main Street.
Absolutely, it's wonderful.
Because those were what the town used to be
Places
all
like
about.
the Greenleaf shop.
Yeah.
So many of those small stores, and they are coming back in different ways.
Yeah, I'd love to see another surplus center. It was a great. I could get bell-bottom pants. You can't get bell-bottom pants anywhere now. Whether I'd wear them or not, I look like an old man with
a good set of canteens.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, the other thing though is trying to get younger people on as guests, because there's so many things that younger people are doing now, and a lot of it's through their phones to connect. But if you get involved enough, there's young people all over town trying to do different things, art projects, music projects.
Correct.
And that's part of the continuity that keeps the town vibrant.
Yeah.
So I guess I share the optimism too, having had some hard times. If people have been here long enough, they know the change is happening.
The key is with radio, you are here when it's happening. With a newspaper, you're yesterday's news. I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to bang any newspapers at all.
Right.
But when things happen, they happen. Here it is on the radio, on the AM. And I know they're I know they're saving the AM, and it's because it's here. If something totally falls apart, radio's still going to be here. You can still listen. When we had the power outages and we had the hurricane go through, tore down everything. Okay, people are saying, "How am I going to get any information?" Listen to the radio. Just turn on your battery operated radio and listen to it. You will find it there.
Yeah, that's right. Folks are a little too dependent on the web all the time, and that's great when it works. But when things get nasty, then you're in trouble.
Exactly
That's
right. Like I said, it's yesterday's news anywhere else. It's news here, and what's happening is happening. So.
I want to thank Ernie and Anita Eldridge for being here. Their program is The Neighborhood. It's on Tuesdays from 5:30 to 6. It's part of that block we have here from 4 to 6, Monday through Friday. So we had a chance to give you an idea of their show, the spirit behind it, the information they're trying to share, and most of all, that they have an open door for you every week. If you have a story to share, they'll be happy to have you in the house here to share the good news. So thanks, and I wish you a great summer ahead.
Thank you. You as well.
You as well, yes.
All righty, we're back live on WILI. I want to mention, too, and give my deepest condolences and respects to Anita and Ernie. She passed away when I was away the last few weeks. We were off the air for Red Sox coverage, and she passed away shortly after we recorded that conversation. So I was really sorry to hear the news. So we're going to miss Anita in so many ways, but I'm very happy to hear that Ernie is so dedicated to the show that he's going to carry on every week with their program, which is called The Neighborhood. So thumbs up to Ernie for years of good radio, and Anita will always be here in the house. So thank you again for that. We're going to look at another show later on today, but I want to give an update too. We're going to do 3 more profiles of some of the shows you may be listening to now, and you may be watching the playlist, but this is a chance for the producers to kind of let you get to know them and what they're all about. Ravings and Cravings with Ruthie's been here for many years. Ruth Hartooni in Alaba. We're going to have her in the house this month. Also, Jeff Eanes and his partner from the Republic Forum, they're going to be here as well. And also, My 3 Cents, the producer, Steve Everett, will be here as well. So each of our shows will have its own story to share. They're all open to have you join us here in the studio to share your stories as well. So I have a treat for you. If you listen to radio, I want to thank you very much, because radio is in my DNA, obviously. I've been in radio since I was in high school. But George Carlin was one of my heroes. And American comedy has a long lifeline. For me, it goes back to Mark Twain when I began to learn about American humor. One of my heroes was the great Lenny Bruce, an icon, somebody who took stand-up comedy and the vaudeville tradition and injected everyday life, politics, social issues into his stand-up with incredible improvisations. Every night was a new show with Lenny Bruce, and he was a godfather to many of our comedians today who are part of our family tree, especially Richard Pryor and George Carlin. So we're going to go back to George Carlin's early days, before he got into cable TV, and before a lot of censorship came along for George. This is from a record he put out in the 70s called FM AM, talking about the different worlds of FM radio and AM radio. And it's a real tribute to the madmen who occupy these studios and make their magic happen every day. So he goes into this great story about the radio station WINO, Wino Radio. So if you're a radio listener, you need to hear this and have a good laugh. And remember what makes radio so crazy and loving. Enjoy, George. Here we go.
I was a disc jockey when I was 19. I was lucky. I found a job, when I should have been still learning about it. And it inspired wonderful wino and Willie West, a character of mine. Radio stations, of course, changed personnel rather rapidly. Willie West is no longer at Wonderful Wino. He's been replaced by Scott Lame. Hi, gang! Scott Lame here! The boss jock with the boss sounds from the boss list of the boss 30 that my boss told me to play. Right here on the nifty 850. Wonderful Wino Radio. Wonderful Wino. The big sound in the big town. Wino time, bing bong. 5 minutes past the big hour of 5 o'clock. Hey, we'll get started with one of the big sounds this week. Number 5. Last week was number 9. Number 9. Moved up 4 spaces. 4 spaces. Here it is, one of the new supergroups, Crosby, Stills, Nash, Young, Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Sacco, and Vanzetti. And the ever-present footprints cross the shadows on the carpets of the hallways of the memories of your mind. Okay, kids, one of the big sounds and a great story behind that one. And you heard it first right here on Wonderful Wino. Wonderful Wino. Wino time, bing bong, 5 minutes past the big hour of 5 o'clock. Moving along with 2 in a row. A big double play, back-to-back sounds for you on the Scott Lame get-together on a wonderful Wednesday. Here's a tune that's really moving fast. When I say fast, it was recorded at 9 o'clock this morning. At 12 noon, it was number 15. At 3 o'clock, it was the number 1 sound in town. And now it's a golden oldie. Solid gold to make you feel old. Solid gold to make you feel old. A golden flashback from the summer of '69, before you were born. Remember, kids? Here they are, the Red, White, and Blue Electric Outdoor Protestant Blues Band. Jenny. Wee-oo. Do, do, do. Wee-oo. Wee-oo. Wee-oo, 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 wee-oo. Bumbled, bumbled, did to did to bumbled, bumbled, did to did to blip, 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 dip, 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 dip. Jenny. Okay. Okay, it's always good to get into some super gold. Super gold. Okay, we'll take about 5 minutes out here for the latest news from around the world from the award-winning Wino Newsroom, and then back with more of the big sounds for you here on the Scott Lane Get Together for a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. Wino time, ping pong, 5 minutes past the big hour of 5 o'clock. As soon as we come back, we'll be listening on Medical Records, Won't You Take My Heart by the donors, and My Body is Rejecting Your Heart by the recipients. But first, Wino News, Wino News, Wino From around the world, across the nation, and up your street, here it is, Wino News, with Wino Newsman Bill Beeper. Saigon, Phnom Penh, Bangkok. That's it from Wino News. Details on the half hour. Okay, kids, and back with more of the big sounds for you here. Wino time, bing bong, 5 minutes past the big hour of 5 o'clock. Right here on Wonderful Wino, Wonderful Wino. More hits more often. Big number 7 this week. Number 7, number 7, number 7, number 7, number 7, number 7. This is one of the great bands from San Francisco, Brain Damage. And a tune that's really making it for them. In fact, it's number 3, number 3, number 3, number 3, number 3, number 3. That's right, it moved up 4 spots while I was talking about it. Here it is. Okay, one of the big sounds that you heard it right here on Wonderful Wino, Wonderful Wino. Wino time, ping pong, 5 minutes past the big hour of 5 o'clock. And say, stick around following the show, kids. We'll be featuring some local basketball. Local basketball. Today, Andy Granatelli Vocational plays the Mighty Purple of Owsley High. One of the big games, too. And okay, let's move back with more of the big sounds. Billy and the Blemishes and One Last Pimple. I got one less pimple from going steady with you. Don't know whether to break it or leave it alone. It's the only one I call mine. Hey, and don't forget, kids, if you have a problem like that, yes, if you're the only one in the crowd who doesn't have unsightly blemishes, pick up on Pimple On. Now you can put them anywhere you want. Put them all on one side of your face and look the other way. Put a peace sign on your forehead. Spell out your girlfriend's name on your back. Hey, coming up during the next hour here on the Scott Lame Show, we'll be listening to the new John Lennon single, which, if you play it backwards at slow speed, it screws up your needle. And don't forget, the Associated Press tells us that 218 people have been killed on the nation's highways. The National Safety Council expects a total of 500. You're not trying, friends. Thank you, gang.
All righty, we're back live. I hope you enjoyed that madness. One of the masters, George Carlin, poking fun at the industry that we love every day here, radio. That was from the AM/FM record from George Carlin. Thank you for putting up with that. I hope you got a kick out of that. We're coming up to the halfway point of the show today. We'll take a break for a few short messages. We're going to open up the phones at 456-1400. And what we're going to do today for a few minutes is get feedback from you about the radio station. Not my show in particular, but talk radio. What are the local talk shows that you enjoy here? We're trying to reach out to you, and once in a while we open up the phones to see who's out there. So we'll get into that right after this break. Don't go away. All righty, we're back live here on WILI, AM 1400, 95.3 on the good old FM. Also, our programs are rebroadcast on Eastern's radio station, WECS, at 90.1 FM. They're online at WECSFM.com. And also our sister station, WICH in Norwich, broadcasts on Friday mornings as part of their programs. Speaking of WICH, I'm very honored to announce that I'm going to have Stu Breyer on the program sometime this month. He's been on the air there for many, many years as a fixture in local radio, covering Norwich and the Southeast. He's kind of a comparison to what we have here with Wayno. He's been there every day for years, doing lots of good talk radio. And that's what we're doing today on the program, is we're celebrating radio locally, how it's trying to reach out to you and make more connections than ever. When things are crazier than ever, people need information. They need a place to go to that they can connect to and maybe share their own thoughts once in a while. And that's what we're doing now for just a few minutes to see what happens here. We're experimenting right now with some live radio. 456-1400 is the phone number, 860-456-1400. Give a call if you have any thoughts to share. If you like the George Carlin bit, let me know, and maybe we'll drop in some more comedy once in a while. But let us know your thoughts, and we're looking more for your thoughts on the station and its effort to do talk radio more than my particular show. So any thoughts would be really appreciated. And I want to mention a few more things while we're waiting for some calls. I went to a Zoom meeting in July. I was invited to go to the Wyndham Music, Arts, and Cultural Commission. They're working very hard to support the arts community through the municipal system of the town. And we had a great conversation in July, and they agreed to come on periodically here, bring some of their members on to give you updates on what they're doing, what's happening behind the scenes, about how Shabu Stage is developing, who's getting access to it, how it's being used, and all the other arts programs in the community. There's so many things happening now. The Arts Commission is there to help facilitate things and connect people. So having them on the radio made sense, and they were very willing to jump in. So we'll try to get them here in the house sometime this month to begin our conversations. And again, 456-1400 is the phone number to call in. Don't be shy. We'd love to hear from a couple of people today. And I want to mention, too, something that we've covered a lot here on the show is poetry and the spoken word. We've had many people here doing readings. The Julio de Burgos Park series is underway now. But this week, actually it's next week, I got a note from Peggy Dietz Shea, and she's curating a series up in stores at Hops 44. And they have an event 6:30 Wednesday, August 14th. They're continuing that series, and it's for ages 16 and above. So if you want to get out there and share your work some material out, they'd love to have you join them. Hops 44 is at 625 Middle Turnpike, Route 44 in stores. This one is next Wednesday night at 6:30, and we'll have Peggy in later. This goes on all year long. And one other thing I should mention, Karen Warwinski has been on the show several times. She's been curating a very nice series of poetry events at the Vanilla Bean up in Pomfret. And she's also doing an event in Roseland Park, which she's been doing for a number of years. And she asked me to spread the news about that one. This is at Roseland Park, and it's going to be, hang on a second, get my notes together, September 15th to plan ahead. It's going to also, they're trying to feature the Connecticut State Poet Laureate, Antoinette Brim Bell, and Karen will be here in early September to talk about that series at Roseland Park. So if you are somebody who's a writer, if you want to get up there, there are many ways for you to share your work, and we'll be happy to share it here on the station. I'm going to give a second for one more phone call before we move on. I know you guys are shy, and unless I push calls a lot, you're not even used to me asking you. You're busy doing what you normally do, right? But if you are listening and you have a thought, don't be shy. 456-1400. It is not a pledge line. We're just liking your thoughts, so give us a call. The programs we have here on WILI are 4 to 6 Monday through Friday. Stu Breyer is on WICH from 10 to 2 on the weekdays, and we're going to have him here this month to talk about local talk radio. So I think what we'll do is go back to the program right now. We'll see if anybody wants to call when we do the next feature. Another one of our dear shows, and it's one of our more recent shows. It precedes me on Wednesdays. It's called Garden Talk with, let's see, we have Len Giddix and Lisa Napolitano. So if you have plants around the house, if you dig in the dirt and pull the weeds, this show is for you. They do a lot of good work, and they have a lot of great ideas to share. So this is all about Garden Talk.
So maybe a kind of a launching pad was you've been doing the show now since 2001. What is it about radio that was your medium of choice? And then we'll get into your topics and, the whole idea of the environment and gardening. But first of all, why radio today?
Well, for the first thing, John, is look at this face. It's a face for radio.
Oh, yes.
And we could show up dirty.
Yeah,
well, I do wear pants most of the time.
Most of the time,
I
correct.
do.
Actually, it started back in 2000. I happened to be the Connecticut editor for People, Places, and Plants magazine, which was a regional gardening magazine, no longer alive. And the first thing that the editor-in-chief said was, hey, what you got to do is you got to get the Blue Book, the Connecticut Blue Book, and write every radio station and say, I'm available if you want a segment or whatever.
As a guest for a show.
As a guest for a show, correct. And, sometimes you get more than you ask for. They happen to need or want a gardening show on Saturdays, talk live, call in. And they said, would you like to do that? And my editor-in-chief got all excited about it because it was a huge station at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And so I said, yeah, well, I'm a little scared because, 2 hours, I don't have all the answers. So I knew Lisa from way back. And she owned a nursery before that. And I said,
there you
Lisa,
go. Talk about hands
would you
on.
like to do a garden show? And what did you say?
I said, sure. And I thought it was one. I thought it was a single
Ended up to be
show.
20 years.
There you go. It's
Yeah,
that power of radio.
It
Get
was
locked in.
Yeah. No, it was fun afterwards. When I started out, I was a little apprehensive about the questions that might come in and how I would answer. And do I know the answer? And you know what? You can say, I don't know.
Isn't that a beautiful thing?
And we had a computer, so while he's stalling, I'm looking it up.
So what color is that flower? And how tall does it grow?
Yeah.
Well, and now you have your phone. But see, it's the honesty of saying, I don't know at all.
I used to show up every week with a bag of books for years and years.
Yeah.
I had several resources. And I'd be flipping through the resources because I knew them. And he'd be stalling. He's really good at stalling. So it was good.
That's how Lisa and I learned. And we've been gardening all our lives.
Right.
But when you make a mistake or you don't know, you look it up. Right. You find out what you did wrong.
Yeah.
And over the years, over 50 years, you start to learn things and remember them. Now I'm starting to forget them.
That's why you have Lisa.
That's right.
Now I'm forgetting, but I'm learning new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
The garden never stops teaching you.
Well, that's one thing. After 50 years, the dirt is still the dirt. But what people do to the dirt is different now.
Oh, my God.
There are so many more chemicals in our soil.
Actually, things are getting better. When I first started my nursery back in the 90s, so I started working in the nursery industry.
And where was your nursery?
It was in Hebron. It was a little organic nursery. I worked for a woman, and she was organic. It was very unusual. It was 1992. And I passed the nurseryman's course, and I was already leaning towards organic because I'd gotten quite sick, and so it was helping me.
Yeah.
And she belonged to the environmental working group and all. Now we get this stuff on our phones. Back then it was like a monthly newsletter you would get. So, and every day somebody walked into that nursery and asked me a question I didn't know, and all the information was behind me.
Yeah.
And it was invaluable. All those years, that was my education, was going there.
So tell me why you're optimistic when I know there are so many toxic chemicals that are available.
There's way more interest in people and awareness that people are actually saying, wait a minute. And they didn't do that back in the 90s. It was a hard sell in the 90s. Today, people are going, you know what? Stuff's going on. I don't feel right. My dog is sick. My kid is sick. This is going on. And people are starting to ask questions. They didn't ask that in the 90s.
That's good to hear. That's really nice to hear, because that's kind of a quiet thing that keeps things positive. Because if you're in a neighborhood, what you put in your lawn goes to your neighbor's well. It's not like you have your private water supply.
Well,
It
I
just goes
I
down.
was told once, well, I don't have to worry. I have city water. It's like,
Oh, yeah?
my, and they were dumping 7. I mean, just on their dogs everywhere.
Which is now not legal. isn't it?
See? Yeah.
So
Think about Rachel Carlson and what kind of trouble she got into in the early 60s, right?
You know, that was the big trigger to all of this. And that was what, back in the 50s?
Yeah.
50s, 60s?
Yeah.
And it's only...
it's taken a half a
Right.
century.
The American Dream lawn, which is the English lawn, those expanses of green, weedless lawns are still a status symbol for the rich. Rich and richer. And
Well, like perfectly manicured.
oh, definitely.
Yeah, I understand.
You know, it's keeping up with the Joneses. But now keeping up with the Joneses, you might be keeping up with the Joneses by putting clover in your lawn, which in the 60s was a very common part of the lawn mixture.
Until
Not
they
anymore.
learned about how to do broadleaf weed control.
Yeah. So now it's people are going back to something that's actually simpler, easier, and the lawn care industry is $1 billion industry in this state, and it's hard to fight against them because of the advertising and the stigma that they represent.
And people like that program. I mean, they sold the program and the advertising, and they believe what the advertising. So,
But now there are organic care companies that will treat your lawn organically.
I see the word more often. I see more products. I don't know about quality, but I see
town
more
of-
people trying.
the
The
town of-
quality is excellent if you have the right people.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah.
No
Well,
doubt.
okay, so we're on the radio right now here, but this is about a show called Garden Talk, which is on before me 4 to 5 on Wednesdays. And what we're doing this week for On the Homefront is looking at some of our shows that we have here on the station to give you a better idea behind the scenes of why the shows are here and what the producers are trying to accomplish with your time. What have you noticed over the years? Because we talked about the soil and like the environmental things, but now like the radio side. Do you notice any changes in the questions you get or any audience reaction over the years? Because, radio, they say is struggling today, but many people think the local level is one way where radio is going to get through a lot of changes about the music industry.
There is one overwhelming question that for the last 24 years we've been asked, and that is, why doesn't my hydrangea bloom?
And it's still a big question.
Why doesn't my hydrangea bloom?
And it's just. the
And,
question.
you cut it back in the fall because it has those nice sticks that stick up and they're ugly, and you cut them back, but the buds for next spring are right there. Or, you know what? You go down to the Cape on vacation or to Rhode Island, Long Island, and it's just so beautiful.
Spectacular.
They're strikingly blue and white and every color of the rainbow, and you say, I want one of those. So you bring it up here, and it's a different zone up here. It's colder up
colder.
here. And what the colder zone does is that it kills the buds. All you need is one night of zone 5.
Oh, yeah. These things are fragile. Now, how about not just the temperature, but also the soil, acid soil?
Well, Connecticut soils are normally acidic, so you can go up and down the streets and see this year is spectacular
Because
for
we had
blue
a
hydrangeas.
mild winter.
Yeah, we had a mild winter.
You see?
They're as blue as your shirt
They're
right now,
spectacular.
and they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen that in quite a few years.
Yeah,
as a
not
matter
a
of
long
fact.
time.
But naturally, hydrangeas are one of those plants where if the soil is sweet, like out in the Midwest, they'll be producing pink flowers. Here in Connecticut, if it's been in the soil for over a year, it's going to have blue flowers. And the problem at the nursery level is that, they run, the grower runs out of the hydrangeas that he's grown all year long.
Locally.
locally, and then he's going to buy new ones. Well, those came in from the Midwest, and they're flowering pink, and nobody wants a pink
Interesting.
hydrangea. But you got to explain to people that it's going to be
turn
fine.
blue. It'll be blue.
It'll turn blue.
What are some of the common mistakes people make that they can avoid that would impact their neighbors or the soil or plants? Things people just, they don't know yet. They're trying to get involved, and they make mistakes.
Water their lawn in the morning or in the evening.
After the sun,
You
right?
should be watering it first thing in the morning.
First thing.
And early. Wake up at 5, put the sprinkler on. But people often water in the afternoon. Probably the worst one. It's bright, sunny, it's just evaporating. Most of it's going away. And the plant doesn't get the benefit. So that's probably the biggest one, I would think.
Well, I think the biggest mistake that everybody makes, I've done it, is to go to a nursery and say, oh, that's a beautiful plant. My gosh, I have to have it. So you buy the plant and you don't know where you're going to put it. It's like everybody else. It does well in certain conditions, and if you don't have those conditions, it's not going to do well. It's going to suffer and linger and look horrible, and you're going to be digging it up. And so
Right plant in the right place.
Pick the place and then buy the plant for that space.
Location.
Location.
It's in real estate. It's the same as it is in the garden.
Well, this is a good way to wrap up this kind of a segment. The program is called Garden Talk with Len Giddix and Lisa Napolitano every Wednesday at 4 o'clock, just before on the Homefront here on WILI, AM 1400 and FM 95.3. Also, the radio station has a playlist on YouTube, and you'll be able to go to WILI Radio, and the whole channel has all the shows that we have available. So if you miss a show, you can subscribe and get every new show and stay connected to your garden. And we kind of gave you a taste today of the approach they have. They're really concerned about the individual, how people at home can do better, how to take care of the land a little better, and how to enjoy plants in ways that maybe you haven't found out yet. But it's here every Wednesday, and I'm very glad to have you here as part of the team, and I thank you for being here today.
Thank you for inviting
Thanks so
us,
much,
John.
Hello, everybody. Got my eyes on you right now. We're getting ready to wrap up the show today. You've been listening to the hosts of Garden Talk. That's Len Giddix and Lisa Napolitano here. They're on Wednesdays at 4 o'clock, just before on the Homefront here with me on Wednesdays at 5. A couple of more important things before I go. The Connecticut Office of the Arts has launched a new website, which is more user-friendly and loaded with lots of good information. So if you're involved with the arts in any way, you need to go there and learn what's going on. ct.gov/arts. It's real simple now. ct.gov/arts. It's a new website. It's got lots of information. It also has a section I want to let you know about: resources for artists, cultural workers, and youth with disabilities. If that applies to anybody in your family or you're struggling with disabilities and you're trying to work with the arts, they have resources for you. ct.gov/arts. The last thing is a special program for artists as individuals. Lots of arts grants go to organizations or 501c3s. This program is for individuals. It's called the Artist Fellowship Program. The deadline is September 20th, so you still have time to get your act together. The program is accepting applications now from Connecticut artists. It provides recognition and funding support for state artists to pursue new work and advance your artistic careers. All artistic disciplines are eligible. This can involve animation, body painting, choreography, community arts, conceptual art, crafts, creative nonfiction, drag, fashion design, a whole rainbow of arts for you. So whatever your discipline, if you go to this website, you can learn more about the grant program. Applications are there. There's a phone number for you to call their staff. They're very helpful. I've applied for some of their grants over the year, and they're very helpful people if you make the contact. Just go to ct.gov/arts, and I'll always keep you aware each week of opportunities to help you move forward. If you want to be a guest, don't be shy. The last thing I'll do today is give you our email. If you want to get involved or if you have news to share, send me a note and we'll be all set to go. It's john@humanartsmedia.com, right? john@humanartsmedia.com. So thanks for sharing some of your time, and we'll see you next week.